Cher Howard, cher Abby, Monsieur le Consul Général, mon cher Bertrand et cher Laurence, whom both of them I want to thank for being such gracious hosts tonight in this French Consulate that is especially dear to my heart, as I was the Consul General here a few years ago. I was going to say a century ago now already. It's such a pleasure for Bertrand and his team and for me, and a privilege to be here with you tonight in the Consulate on this very special occasion as we are gathered here this evening to honor our friend Howard Milstein, one of the most respected investment bankers and real estate entrepreneurs in New York and beyond, and also a truly exceptional philanthropist and also an exceptional individual, and if I may, a great friend of my country, great friend of France. Would like to extend a warm welcome to Howard's family and friends who have joined us here this evening to show their support and admiration, with, of course, a very special word of appreciation to your wife, Abby Milstein, to whom I also want to pay tribute tonight. I can say that you are, Abby, if I may, our co-hero this evening. And I also want to welcome Michael, your son. You can be very, very proud of your father and your mother. Thank you for being here. It's also great to see so many friends and Francophiles actually in the room. Our dear friend Christy Ferrer is here, of course, George and Jerry Sape, and I should mention each and every one of you by name. Before proceeding with the ceremony itself, let me say just a few words about the distinction that I will bestow upon Howard Milstein in a few minutes. The Legion of Honor was created by Napoleon Bonaparte in 1802 to reward extraordinary accomplishments and outstanding services rendered to France based on a personal decision by the President of the French Republic. It is France's highest distinction and one of the most coveted in the world, and you know the long tradition of French modesty here. Mon cher Howard, you were born in 1951, the son of Paul Milstein, grandson of Maurice Milstein, a successful self-made man who had come to the United States with a strong desire to make his way through business and eventually to engage in the philanthropic sector. Inheriting their skills and experience, you decided quite early on to follow in their footsteps. And your studies, as I will mention, are truly brilliant. After graduating from Cornell University with a Bachelor of Arts in Economics, summa cum laude, in 1971, you earned both your law and business degrees in the JD MBA program at Harvard University in 1977. You then started the very successful career we all know about as a banker and businessman, first at the investment bank Warburg Paribas Becker, then at Milstein Properties and Milstein Brokers Real Estate in close collaboration with your father, Paul. Today, as we all know, you serve as Chief Executive Officer, President, and Chairman of New York Private Bank and Trust, and its operating bank, Emigrant Bank, as well as head of Milstein Properties, Milford Management, the Milford Agency, and founding chairman of the merchant bank Friedberg Milstein, and I could go on and on. This is truly impressive. Public service is also important to you, means a lot to you too. You have chaired the New York State Thruway Authority since 2011, when the New York Senate unanimously confirmed your nomination for this seat. And the key word here is unanimous, which means that you reached out across the aisle, as we say here. Your outstanding commitment to the charitable world makes you and your wife, through the Abby and Howard Milstein Foundation, one of the leading philanthropists in New York, and I should say in the country and beyond. In doing so, you demonstrate day after day that bringing a businessman's perspective to the appropriate areas of philanthropic endeavor can make a difference, and actually can make a huge difference. You strive to put this venture philanthropy, as you coined it, in practice every day with unrelenting energy through the foundation. And the Howard and Abby Milstein Foundation's achievements and missions are truly extraordinary, truly exceptional, and encompass a very large array of sectors in medical research and healthcare delivery in particular. And on this, of course, I could speak until tomorrow morning, but seriously, about the so many causes that through the foundation you support. This is all about, I mean, most of them about vital issues per se, in order to save lives. And I must say, on a more personal note, I'm very receptive to what you do, belonging to a family of medical researchers, and I believe that what you have achieved is truly, truly exceptional and extraordinary. You are also deeply committed to education, which you've been strongly supporting for 20 years as trustee of Cornell University, through initiatives such as the Milstein Scholars set up to give middle-class kids the opportunity to attend Cornell when their family would otherwise not have been able to afford it. You've also lent your talents as a lawyer pro bono to the most fragile people of American society through programs such as the Milstein Child Safety Center, the Milstein Criminal Justice Policy Forum, and a training designed to educate students to resist drug abuse, to name just a few examples among literally hundreds of others. You also serve on the board of the National September 11 Memorial Foundation and co-chaired the COPE campaign, which provided post-traumatic counseling for New York City police officers and their families affected by 9/11. And here there are also a couple of our friends here tonight that I should mention, being very active in this respect, and Christopher in particular. I should also mention the fact that you've always nurtured, and of course it's important for us, an unflagging passion for art and culture through your long-standing support to institutions such as the Shakespeare Theatre in Washington, the Musical Arts Association of Cleveland, the UK Royal College of Music, or closer to us, the New York Public Library and the Museum of Natural History, for example. I cannot list all of your commitments to so many philanthropic causes here, but as we said before the ceremony with Abby, I would like to pay tribute through these few examples to your generosity and big heart, but also to the fact, and that is to me the most impressive, quite frankly, in your commitment, that you and Abby are personally committed to each of these causes. And as I said, on a daily basis, you chair the boards yourself. You take news from, the sick of this world yourself. You are all over the place yourself. It's not something you delegate to others. You are personally committed, and that I admire personally beyond everything. Cher Howard, you have long had a love affair with France. No offense, Abby. It's an open secret, and actually you are very much part of it. Your love of France, especially its way of life and art de vivre à la française, is part of your DNA and is expressed through many of your activities that I just talked about. As part of this endeavor, how could I not mention your leading role on the board of the Thomas Jefferson Foundation, for example? Thanks to you and to the tenacity of its leader, Dan Jordan, and the perseverance of its members, this foundation, the Thomas Jefferson Foundation, carried out the restoration of Monticello, the home of Jefferson. You've lent your support, your energy, and you have energy for 10,000 people, to this huge work, funding the construction of a new visitors center here, as well as great academic research projects aimed at preserving Thomas Jefferson's legacy and making it available to everyone. You also contributed to restoring Monticello's wine cellar back to its original state in close collaboration with the great wine producers that Thomas Jefferson himself favored. As you know, Jefferson and Monticello mean a lot to me. Jefferson and Monticello mean a lot to France. As you also know, French President François Hollande paid a state visit to the United States 2 months ago. This was the first state visit by a French president in this country for nearly 20 years. This was, I believe, a great success story. President Hollande and President Obama went to Monticello on this occasion, reminding the world that the values that we have in common mean more than ever in the 21st century. And, you know, speaking of a state visit, it reminds me of that of President Kennedy to France back in the 1960s. I think it's a great story. It's very short. President Kennedy went to Jackie Kennedy to France, and Jackie Kennedy, for whatever reason, was very intimidated by General de Gaulle, by President de Gaulle. And so she wanted to break the ice. She comes to see General de Gaulle in Paris, and she said to Charles de Gaulle, "You know, Monsieur le Président, I have French roots." And President de Gaulle, aloof, only answered, "I have too, madame." Welcome to France. Cher Howard, your love of French culture and French wine in particular is no secret to anybody. You never miss an opportunity to praise France's cultural heritage, and have become one of the most prominent French wine connoisseurs and collectors on this side of the Atlantic. I have to be careful here because I know there are other great wine collectors and connoisseurs in this room. Over the years, you've acquired unique collections of Grand Cru and great millésimes, as well as a wine estate near Beaune in the highly praised wine country of Burgundy. Together with your brother Edward, a Burgundy lover himself, you went so far as to buy out the charming property of Remoissenet in 2004, a domain whose creation dates back to 1877 and that had been family run for almost half a century as Maison Remoissenet Père et Fils, as we name it in French. This sale included its vineyards and cellars, and what cellars, since it was reported that over 1 million bottles of Burgundy from 1950 to 1990 slept in its shady recesses. Your goal is to make it flourish again and thrive on the international market, very much in line with your venture philosophy of audacity and hard work. As a commandeur in the confrérie des Chevaliers du Tastevin, you feel personally entitled to propagating French good taste across the world. What energy you demonstrated, for example, in creating a wine distribution company in France. In this regard, you are helping to foster the French-American economic partnership on the cultural, but also, again, on the economic front. And for that, we are very, very grateful. Cher Howard, on behalf of the President of France, and in recognition of your exemplary commitment to French-American partnership and friendship, it is a great privilege for me to now bestow upon you the insignia of Chevalier in the Legion of Honor. And I have to say just a few words in French. Howard Milstein, au nom du Président de la République, nous vous remettons les insignes de Chevalier de la Légion d'honneur. To hurt you here.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador François. I'm delighted and humbled to receive this great honor. I do know that after I speak, we go to dinner, so I'll keep my remarks brief. I've had the great pleasure of getting to know you when you served here as Consul General in New York, and more recently, to know the current Consul General, Bertrand Lotellerie, and your predecessors over the years, all through my close and dear friend, Christy Ferrer, the famous Christy Ferrer. Christy is herself a recipient of the Medal of the Légion d'honneur, and I know that she has been my champion. We are so pleased that our special friends, Sibylle and Jean-Paul d'Enfer-Rochereau, Sibylle? Are able to be here with us this evening. Regrettably, another friend of 30 years, Benoit d'Aboville, who served so long as a senior French diplomat and my sometimes tennis partner, is unable to be here this evening due to other pressing commitments. But Abby and I hope to continue tonight's celebration with him and Christy in Paris in June. My love of France began with my first visit there as a teenager, when my parents took us there on a summer holiday. My mother, Irma, who's here with us tonight, was a language major, fluent in French, which gave the visit an extra special je ne sais quoi. In 1976, Abby and I spent 2 weeks in France on our honeymoon. That began a lifetime of wonderful visits together. We fell under the spell of the Hotel du Cap in Cap d'Antibes, and in addition to our annual visits, we treated ourselves to the best possible gift on our big occasions by inviting the people we love to spend time with us in the place we love. We have so many special memories of being there with so many of you here tonight. We look forward to making many more delightful memories there together. In many ways, France figured into the launch of my business career, as the ambassador noted. Fresh out of graduate school, I went to work for Warburg Paribas Becker, a partnership of 3 firms that included the Banque de Paris et de Pays-Bas. I spent interesting time in Paris, in the Paris office on Rue d'Antin, and learned the more gracious French way to start a business day with a stop at a charming cafe rather than coffee at my desk in a plastic cup. My boss then, Barry Friedberg, became my lifelong friend and now my indispensable partner. Barry? Alain Lebec, another colleague from those days, once again works with us. I'm so glad that Barry, Charlotte, Alain, and Leah are here. Where's Alain? In my late 20s, I was introduced to one of, by the way, I'm 62. We're only in the late 20s. I'll try to go further. I was introduced to one of life's great pleasures and one of the true treasures of France, its fine wines. My introduction came at the beautiful dinner table of Stephen and Stephanie Myron. Where is Stephen? Still standing. Stephen generously shared the bounty of his cellar, enhanced by his vast knowledge. He even shared coaching notes with me to help me prepare for the purportedly rigorous entrance test of the Chevalier du Tastevin, our Burgundy Wine Society. One of the wonderful aspects of an interest in wine is that it is a pleasure meant to be shared, and I'm so happy to have many of my wine confrères here tonight in addition to Stephen. Will Zeckendorf, where's Will? Our Grand Seneschal, at least for another 2 weeks, whose late father, Bill, made sure I was admitted to our chapter, Ned Wyman, Mauro Romita, and other wine lovers, George Sape, David Rudnick, David Clossy, Edgar Coleman, Alan Weeder, and John Zuccotti. Love of French wine has been a special shared passion and bond between my brother Eddie and me. Eddie is right here. And with Eddie's enthusiasm and expert palate, we've been on a remarkable journey together. It began with buying wine by the barrel for ourselves at the Hospice de Beaune auctions 20 years ago. Eddie and Robin and Abby and I once visited there together and enjoyed the magic of Les Trois Glorieuses, the 3 days in November when the Burgundy wine world celebrates the harvests and tastes and buys the output of the numerous plots that have been donated to the hospice over the last 6 centuries. To elevate our barrels of grape juice into wine, we turned to our friend, Pierre-Henri Gaget, the head of the well-known and prestigious House of Jadot. When the opportunity arose for us to purchase a negociant ourselves, we turned again to Pierre-Henri for advice and asked him to partner with us in this fledgling venture. I'm delighted that Pierre-Henri could be here with us tonight, having flown to New York from Paris just this morning. Thank you. When we acquired Remoissenet, our Burgundy wine business in Beaune, we made history as one of the first non-Burgundians to enter the sacred terroir. We have steadily increased our operations by buying and leasing land, and under the care of our extraordinary team of Pierre-Antoine Ravani and Bernie Rapolt, we are now making 65 different wines, including many of the highest quality. Pierre-Antoine and Bernie, where are you? Keep up the good work. My love of French wine joined with my interest in history during my years on the board of the Thomas Jefferson Foundation. When Jefferson was the American ambassador to France, he cultivated his love of French wine and was acknowledged as America's foremost wine expert. Disguised as a common person, he traveled through France, tasting and sending large quantities home. As president, he stocked the White House cellar and later advised his successors, President Madison and Monroe, on their wine purchases. Abby and I had the special opportunity to travel with that board twice to France, once to follow along the route he traveled in tasting and buying wine, and once to dedicate a statue of Jefferson in Paris in 2006. The statue stands larger than life on the left bank of the Seine, quite near the present-day home of the Légion d'honneur in the Hôtel du Somme. Jefferson would rent a chaise longue in the Tuileries and watch the construction of the Hôtel du Somme. He took some inspiration from it for his own architectural masterpiece, Monticello. After the dedication of the statue, our group was treated to a lovely dinner at Tour d'Argent by a charming elderly supporter named Bert Taylor. Bert had inherited an apartment in the same building as the restaurant from his father, and along with it a private cave that was part of the restaurant's extensive underground storage dating back many hundreds of years. Luckily, his family cave was in the part of the complex that had been bricked off to hide it and the rest of the best wines from the Germans during the war. He brought up and served not only some outstanding Burgundies and Bordeaux, I think it was a 1955 Chateau Saône in Magnum, but some really remarkable wines, but not so different from things that my brother Eddie serves me regularly. But most remarkably, a cognac from 1795. It was truly spectacular to drink a delicious brandy that had been made from grapes harvested in Thomas Jefferson's time and to toast him with it. When the foundation decided to renovate the Jefferson's wine cellar at Monticello, as the ambassador mentioned, I volunteered that Eddie and I would underwrite the renovation. When it was complete, we decided to have a very special dedication and invited today's winemakers from the producers whose wines Jefferson had enjoyed most. We were honored that among those who came was Aubert de Villaine, the proprietor of the Domaine Romani-Conti. We had a two-day celebration beginning with a lovely dinner in Washington at the French Embassy, hosted by then Ambassador Vimont, and the next night a magnificent dinner in Monticello itself, cooked by none other than Daniel Boulou. Our good friend Dina Kleiman, with her impeccable French and remarkable diplomatic instincts, gave us invaluable help in organizing it all. Where's Dina? I know that those of you who were there with us will always remember it, not only for its delicious food, its extraordinary wine, and its magical setting, but most importantly, as a meaningful expression of French-American friendship. As many of you know, the Légion d'honneur was started by Napoleon, as the ambassador mentioned, in 1802. His intention was to establish an order of merit to replace the hereditary titles of the Ancien Régime. You might not know that another of Napoleon's creations came out of his short-lived conquest to Egypt at about the same time. When he began his expedition, he took along artists, classicists, cartographers, geographers, historians, the flower of the Enlightenment, to record in a way never done before the wonders of the ruins of ancient civilization. It was on that expedition that the Rosetta Stone was first discovered. The fruits of their efforts became a 23-volume set of books in sizes ranging from large to gigantic, they're called elephantines, that were issued over more than 2 decade period and entitled The Description of Egypt. Special paper, special printing, presses and techniques were invented and developed, and even special furniture to hold it. About 300 sets were produced, and very few complete sets of the first printing are known to exist today. When I learned about this, it sparked my imagination. I set about finding a complete set to acquire. After several years, I was finally able to buy a complete hand-colored first printing. On the day last July, when the massive boxes were delivered to my office, I opened a bottle of Clos Vougeot, turned on the Marseillaise, which happens to be on my playlist, and with my son Michael, Barry, and Alain, we delightedly set about opening up my prized new French possession. In one of those wonderful coincidences of life, with a glass of Clos Vougeot in my hand and with the Marseillaise playing dramatically, my secretary brought me a letter from the President of the Republic of France, informing me that I had been awarded the Medal of the Légion d'honneur. Now I stand here proudly between the red, white, and blue of the United States and the tricolore of France, surrounded by friends and family, people who love France. Shall I sing the Marseillaise?
Yes.
Well, not now, but perhaps after I've had enough to drink later.
Well done. Wonderful. Wonderful. What a great talk. And coming from here, from the heart. Wonderful. Wonderful.